Today we're going to get into a conversation in just a moment about the Men of Medgar, so we thought we'd take you through some of the numbers. Now, our first slide here will let you know about My Brother's Keeper. This was an initiative created by President Obama back in 2014 to address and correct the persistent obstacles to opportunity faced by young men of color. Now, New York City is very benefited by this. New York State is actually the very first to implement the president's program on a statewide level, the original version of that. In the last month, New York State budget, Governor Cuomo allocated some $20 million specifically for the My Brother's Keeper program. Going to take you into some numbers here looking at CUNY. Between 2014 and 15, about 24% of bachelor's degrees earned at CUNY were received by African Americans. In that same year, New York City Tech had the largest enrollment of black undergraduates for the entire CUNY system. In 2014, black men comprised about 9% of the undergraduates, compared to about 15% for black women. Got another look at Medgar Evers for you. Although Medgar Evers is not an HBCU, a historically black college or university, about 80% of their student population is African American, and 23% of Medgar Evers students' body is male. So that's just a look at Men of Medgar by the numbers. Now we're going to get into the A block.
We just saw a snapshot of the big picture regarding black males and local college education. Even closer to home in Crown Heights, the Men of Medgar conference is being held next week at Medgar Evers College. To tell us what to expect, we're happy to have with us two participants in the conference. First, we welcome one of the guest speakers, Dr. Torian Easterling, who serves as an assistant commissioner of the Brooklyn District Public Health Office at the New York City Health Department. Joining him is Larry Martin, a senior student advisor at the college's Male Development and Empowerment Center, which is hosting the event. And finally, one of the students involved with the center, Omar Ali Cyrille of Medgar Evers Jr. Gentlemen, welcome to BK Live.
Thank you for having us.
Okay. So, Larry, can you tell us a little bit more about the center and what's behind the conference?
Okay, the center actually has been around for like the last 15 years. It was founded in 2000, at that time under the leadership of Dr. Edison O. Jackson. It was an attempt on his part and that administration to look at a trend that has been happening, it's going back into the 80s and even before that, of the lack of black men, period, going to college, or coming to college and not completing it. So the center was designed to address that issue, or to begin to start trying to find some strategies to address the issue of retention and graduation. So we've been at this for like 15 years. The Men of Medgar Week is about eight years running that we've been doing this, and it's an attempt to take a moment out of our academic year, one, to spotlight the successes of our men, to educate folks about what we do, and then to talk about some larger issues that affect not only men, but you know, our interaction with the larger society, both academically, politically, and socially.
So, Doctor, how did you get involved in the event?
As you sort of pointedly pointed out, a number of statistics, I mean, most of the conversation has been around education development and workforce development. And so when you're talking about male and fatherhood engagement, we're really looking at things like, protecting them from early dropouts, making sure that the success of pipeline programs. And so my opportunity here is really to expand the conversation around health inequities. As Mr. Martin mentioned, how do we make sure that we are engaging men in all aspects of society? And so when we talk about access to healthy foods, when we talk about availability of physical activity within your neighborhoods, men are a critical piece of that dialogue. And this is a great opportunity for us to have that conversation at Medgar Evers College.
Okay. Now, Omar, I want to bring you into the conversation. What has been your experience with the center, and how do you feel that working with the center has helped you matriculate?
Well, my experience with the center is that me as a student, I learned to be goal-oriented. And that's one thing. You don't want to come into college and float around, and that's something I did in my early years. And working with the Male Development Empowerment Center is that I have a purpose now as a mentor. And that allows me to be an influence to students who may, one of my favorite workshops coming up was the brothers, sons, fathers, and uncles, is that, it takes the village. And that could be as far as, we each here may have one or two people for a reason why we're here, and they may not be their parents. So they can come to the center and they can find somebody for a reason to be able to stay in college and continue to go to classes and fight through finals, fight through midterms, and to continue on as a student. And I can be an influence as far as, stay in school and, keep doing this and, keep guiding them in a way that they may not have outside of school.
So, Mr. Martin, we knew that Medgar had some skin in the game before Obama actually formalized this plan. So how did that impact the center and what you were able to do and expand the reach?
Well, I mean, what the President's program has done is it has highlighted even more the importance of the work that we do.
Gotcha.
As you said, we were kind of in this before his program came on board. Our center actually historically is the model for the CUNY Black Male Initiative Program, right? Which was actually spearheaded in 2004. But it was our center that CUNY took a look at and said, this is an issue that we're going to have to deal with system-wide. So they looked at what we were doing, and now they have replicated it all of 23 campuses. So we welcome what the President is doing. Most of his emphasis, however, is on the community college level. All right? We are a senior college, so we may not be able, or we may not initially get in on that ground floor, but we welcome his spotlighting on high school students, as we do as well, and of course on our brothers in the community college community. Because what we want to do, we want our brothers to go just beyond the associates and go for the bachelor's. And that can be a challenge. We try to focus on activities that, one, connect our men to each other so that they can engage each other and network, tutoring, mentoring, and then trying to provide an atmosphere of embracement. Like we say, we want to put a body on a brother, have that every brother should be connected to another brother, because you can't run this race alone. So again, we welcome what he's doing, we support it, and we are looking forward to putting our iron in the ore, our oar in the water, so to speak, to participate in rowing the boat.
Okay. So Dr. Easterling, just sort of piggyback on what he's saying, why is it so important that black males are inspired to go to college and to think of themselves in these places? And at what age, do you begin the discussion about these are the expectations?
That's a great question. I mean, I think one, we have to realize that education is a key driver for success of all people, and particularly, in my instance, as assistant commissioner, talking about health outcomes, right? And so, if we are making sure that individuals have the true opportunity to achieve full health, making sure that individuals have opportunities to all education and good education, quality education is important. Most strategies have been talking about decreasing violence, increasing safety in schools. But we also have to have more conversations about making sure that the schools are of quality. And that conversation needs to happen at a very early age. We're not talking about at college or high school. We're talking about second and third grade, where there's an opportunity to really impact the success of a young man or a young boy of color. And just take this instance, when one of the panels that I'm really sort of curating is looking at representation of black men in health professions. And that's going to be a conversation for us to discuss a report that was recently published by the Association of American Medical Colleges. In the report called Altering the Course, they talk about the issue that we have seen a significant decline among one racial group, and that's black men. In 1978, there were 542 black men enrolled in medical school. We have never reached above that number since that year, since 78. And so we're talking about over 30 years where we have been able to successfully recruit and obtain black men within medical schools across this country. It's a serious issue, because what we also understand is that black men and also increasing physician diversity leads to more access to people in low-income communities, people of color, immigrant families. And so there's a true disconnect about how we are providing and ensuring success for all people in this society.
So, Omar, we have news headlines with young white women taking cases all the way to the Supreme Court because they're denied admission at a certain college and claiming that, listen, I need some special consideration. Why should we look at you as a young black male and hear your story and see why we should be breaking down some of those barriers?
Well, it all goes back into inclusion, and as far as like me being on this panel is an inclusion of my voice, and it gives people that I speak for, as far as young black men of color, it's a voice. You get to throw your hat in the ring, and that's just all we ask for, is a voice as part of the table. Because if we're going forward, you start to look at what is important, and when you start to feel important, you start to move important. And if you don't have anything to look forward to in the future, then that's when certain things can go off the road. So us having something to look forward to in the future can keep us on the straight line.
Okay. Now, Larry, I wanted to ask you, what role does the community play in all of this? And what responsibilities does the black community have?
Well, the major responsibility is continue to engage us. Are you speaking specifically about black men, or in Medgar Evers' role with the community and our center?
I'm saying specifically the community at large.
Well, number one,
because it's framed as a public health issue, so it's a community issue.
Right. One, we've always been involved with the community. Medgar Evers is a college that was founded out of the community's activism. All right, and we continue to reach out and partner with many community-based organizations and other partners. But what we're looking for is, we want to develop men who have a social consciousness and who have an academic excellence, that they could be able to transform that into being leaders in our community. And we need our community to cheerlead us, to support us, to keep us a vibrant institution here in Brooklyn. And we need them to continue to let us know what it is that we need to do to service our community. It's interesting, the brother talked about the disparities with respect to a lack of doctors. Right. But another statistic is that's very important, is that not only is there a lack of doctors in the medical profession, but there's a lack of black men even going for PhDs. Right. All right. For us, that's like the canary in the mine shaft. All right. What we want to do is, we are trying to say to our young brothers that education is important, that it is one of the passports to a better life in this world, and it is one of those strengthening factors that help our men lead and be responsible to our community. So what we're trying to do is trying to raise their level of consciousness about the importance of getting an education, getting them through beyond the bachelor's degree to the master's degree, to the PhD. That's where we want to go, all right? And so we're trying to build a platform for that. That, in my opinion, is being very responsible, not only to our men, but to our community at large.
So, Dr. Easterling, looking at those factors, what sort of factor is the sort of bar to finishing school or even getting admitted sometimes in relation to this public health threat that we could be facing because of the lack of folks going into schools or finishing?
Yeah. So, I think there's an aspect of us to make sure that we're modeling the right behavior, right? But I think really the conversation has to switch from individual accountability and talk about more institutional and community accountability, right? And so if we're really looking to address discrimination and the systemic barriers that are decreasing and impacting the potential for young men of color to succeed, then we have to make sure that there's sort of the environment where we're promoting that success. And I think first thing we have to talk about and feel comfortable in addressing racism, right? We have to just name it, put it on the table. Right? What is it? What does it look like? And we have to own our privilege in those conversations. And I think we can move from there and begin to define success by looking at the resources that are available in all communities, right? When you look at certain statistics, when you look at certain health outcomes, we're saying that people within our communities are dying at an early age, no different than anybody else, but it's just an earlier rate. So that means that the resources that are in other communities are not and communities of color.
Life-saving.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so we need to put all the cards on the table. What are we lacking, right? And when we begin to do that, I think we're beginning to really sort of open up this box of like, all right, well, there's some issues, some discrimination that really exists within our community. So we could move from there, right?
Okay. Now, how do people find out about the conference?
Yes.
When exactly is the
Okay, the
conference? How can
conference-
people attend?
Okay.
What I need to bone up on before,
Right.
before I show up?
The conference goes from April 18th to April 21st. That's Monday to Thursday at Medgar Evers College, which is located 1650 Bedford Avenue in Brooklyn. We have events every day. If they want further information, they can call 718-270-6050. That's the office where they can contact and get further information. But we have a number of workshops and other kind of activities. For example, of course, we have the doctor's going to present his workshop. We're also going to do something around business, about being your own boss. Another family-oriented discussion about fathers, uncles, sons. We're going to have a movie. We're going to try to show the movie Concussion and the movie Creed. And then we're also going to do a community walkthrough. The brothers are going to dress up in their suits, and they're going to walk through the Crown Heights neighborhood, down the streets, just letting folks know we're here. All right? And this is part of what Medgar Evers produces.
All right, Omar, we're going to give you the final word. We got 30 seconds. Take us home. What are you most excited about at the conference coming up?
I'm most excited about seeing like-minded men like me, and it's about seeing the future too, because some of these guys are younger than me, and you come in with these headlights and it's like, this is college, you come straight from high school, it's not the game anymore, you don't have a free Metro card, mommy can't really pay for all these things, and it's like, how am I going to survive in an environment where having a network is very important, and bringing that network together. Like I said, it takes the village. It's about someone to maybe have a shoulder to lean on, maybe someone just to unload some certain things, because a clear conscience leaves room for knowledge, and you can't go to class if something's going on at home, if you haven't eaten for the day, and really take in a 3-hour lecture. So these are the things that we need to talk about. These are the things that we need to work through, and that's why some of these workshops are very important, and going to the mentoring is very important, and it leaves me with the purpose of being an influence to these young men to go further, push forth, and there's always going to be a light at the end of the tunnel.
Very well said.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, gentlemen. Looking at the future here.
All right.
Good-looking group. Don't love us like you do out there.